The sun rose over the Orontes River, and Ramses rode into legend. Chariots thundered, spears shattered, dust and blood thickened the air. At Kadesh, Egypt faced the Hittite Empire in one of the largest chariot battles the ancient world would ever see. Ramses was just a young king then, bold, untested, nearly killed by his own ambition. The battle would shape his legacy, not through clear victory, but through masterful storytelling. This is the story of Ramses the Great, warrior, builder, god-king, and the brutal clash that tested his reign, shook empires, and rewrote the art of royal propaganda forever. Embark on a journey into an era where earthly kingdoms and celestial realms intertwined, an age dominated by a child named Ramses, born amidst the ancient marvels of Egypt, tethered to the divine. Ramses II emerged into a world governed by the ebb and flow of the Nile, destined to become a living deity, moulded from birth by the forces of gods and men alike. As the son of Pharaoh Seti III and Queen Tuya, Ramses was never merely human. Born around 1303 BCE, his name carried the weight of prophecy. Born of Ra, as his existence fulfilled celestial designs. His was a life preordained, wrapped in rituals affirming his divine heritage. Surrounded by priests from his earliest days, Ramses absorbed the mystical teachings whispered in the halls of Thebes, among towering statues that mirrored his future. Yet Ramses' childhood was not one of simple reverence. It was a time of tutelage, in a court where power moved beneath the surface like a silent river. Shadows of past pharaohs loomed within the grand palaces, the tales of their triumphs and failures resonating in corridors filled with intrigue. As conspiracies brewed, young Ramses was trained not only as a warrior, but also in the sagas of diplomacy and leadership. He stood among generals marking battle strategies not on paper, but on stretches of sand. Here he learned the harsh intricacies of rulership, witnessing firsthand the delicate dance between power and responsibility. While other children played, Ramses' hands were moulded into instruments of sovereign will, sculpted by lessons far beyond his years. His ascension alongside Seti III in co-regency marked a significant epoch, a delicate choreography meant to groom him in realpolitik. Together, father and son embarked on campaigns, each endeavour a lesson in the mechanics of imperial statesmanship. Ramses understood the weight that clung to the crown, and with each stride, he grasped deeper the intricacies bridging mortal reign and divine mandate. This co-rulership was not only for instruction but also assurance, binding empire to heir against the potential frictions that defined dynastic transitions. Through campaigns and courtly duties, Ramses matured, layering his father's wisdom with his aspirations, learning the delicate interplay of alliances and enmities that lay ahead. Even as a co-regent, Ramses found himself steeped in a ritualistic life that transcended earthly matters. Immersed in the spiritual heart of Egypt, surrounded by priests, he came to embody both king and god, weaving his destiny into every ceremony and sacred rite. His life became an extended communion with the divine, where each sacrifice offered was a gesture binding him closer to his heavenly benefactors. It was not merely a title, but an existence, a mantle he wore among the temples and shrines that marked Egypt's landscape. This sacred preparation honed his skills in magical crafts and governance, revealing the intertwined nature of religion and authority. As Seti's days waned, Ramses stood ready to transition from understudy to sovereign. Upon his father's death, Ramses ascended the throne, not unsure, but bathed in the experiences of an apprenticeship that spanned a lifetime. As the empire entrusted him its vast dominions, he honoured his predecessor's shadow while poised to cast his own. In the quiet chambers where pharaohs communed with eternity, Ramses took up the mantle of his lineage, determined to expand its grandeur. His reign was heralded as a symphony of both continuity and change, propelled by promises whispered into ancient ritual, aspirations that contemplated limitless horizons. Eager to immortalize his legacy in the very stones of Egypt, Ramses initiated projects that dwarfed those of his forebears, exercising both reverence and ambition. His architectural endeavours reflected his burgeoning legend. Temples, cities, and statues rose like prayers rendered in stone. The temple of Abu Simbel, resplendent in its grandeur, was an offering to divinity, echoing glory through the ages. Ramses' ambition was not confined solely to architectural feats, for he prioritized his people's prosperity, nurturing Egypt's heart with trade and infrastructure initiatives that fortified his domain. Roads surged across the land, cities thrived under strategic governance, embodying Ramses' desire for a flourishing kingdom. His vision transcended the opulent edifices to envelop the essence of his rule, a legacy etched indelibly into history. Not content with simply defending Egypt, Ramses embraced his role as a warrior king, commanding armies that marched forth to secure Egypt's borders and extend its influence. His campaigns against encroaching forces from Canaan to the Hittite boundaries were both defensives of his empire and assertions of his might. These early military forays solidified his prowess, demonstrating a keen grasp of both strategy and conquest. Ramses sought not only to hold but to expand, etching strength into the annals of his reign. His foray into battle against the Hittites laid ground for the future, marking him not just as king, but as legend, a ruler capable of crafting peace through veritable strength. Ramses' kingship was defined by his divine duty and his potent stewardship, all interwoven to form a tapestry as rich in reality as it was in divinity. His was a narrative forged in dreams and destiny, within the relentless pulse of an empire reaching for eternity, echoing through the annals of time. In the ancient world, the northern horizon was dominated by the formidable rise of the Hittite Empire, a powerful force that devoured city-states with the ferocity of a storm. Hattusa, its capital, was a stronghold of unyielding stone and spirit, home to ambitions as expansive as the Anatolian skies. Under King Muwatalli II, the Hittites expanded their territories, their reputation for ruthless efficiency spreading faster than their chariots raced. Egypt, once an untouchable power, watched in tense silence as its vassal states were swallowed by this northern giant. The corridors of Egyptian power buzzed with tales of Hittite might, as nobles and generals pondered the implications for their own empire. The Hittites were complex, akin to a coalition bound by their king's strong arm. Their society was a tapestry of Luwian, Palaites, and Hattian cultures, diverse yet unified under common goals. Despite internal conflicts and rebellious undercurrents from subjugated cities, they maintained control, not just through conquest but also through diplomatic alliances, frequently sealed with strategic marriages. As Hittite influence stretched across Mesopotamia and beyond, Egypt was forced to consider its next move in a world where power dynamics were unpredictably shifting. Perched along the Orontes River, Kadesh was more than a city. It was a prized symbol of balance between empires. Its ancient fortifications stood like tales carved in stone, recounting battles fought and lost. Kadesh was both a sentinel and a gateway to the Levant, a land ripe with opportunities and challenges. To Egypt, it was a reminder of former dominance, when its influence was unchallenged and sprawling. For the Hittites, it was a keystone, crucial for controlling trade routes vital to their growing empire. The city's imposing walls whispered tales of historical struggles between powerful rulers vying for supremacy over this strategic stronghold. Kadesh's significance extended beyond strategy. It was also an emotional and spiritual centre where cultures clashed and intertwined. Marketplaces bustled with merchants offering wares from distant lands like Babylon and Thebes. Its temples bore silent witness to prayers offered to both Egyptian and Hittite gods, attesting to a city unified and divided by its importance. For Ramses, reclaiming Kadesh transcended military conquest. It was about legacy, pride, and fulfilling the divine mandate to expand Egypt's historic borders. The rivalry between Egypt and the Hittites loomed large, a narrative of ambition, power, and underhanded tactics. Both empires sought perpetual expansion, aiming to ensure their legacies were etched in the sands of time. This escalating tension played out in alliances with smaller states and control over lucrative trade routes. The land between them was a contested canvas, splattered with the ambitions of two great civilizations. This wasn't merely a political struggle, it was deeply personal, enshrined in the powerful personas of their rulers, for whom not just territory, but eternal glory was at stake. Beneath the grand story of rivalry was a complex web of diplomacy and espionage. Spies and messengers played dangerous games, whispering of troop movements and covert opportunities. Diplomacy often held a fragile balance, as treaties as delicate as papyrus could be torn when fortunes shifted. Amidst this complex chess game stood Ramses, an ambitious king eager to etch his name in history. He dreamed not just of war, but of reshaping a world that would witness Egypt's prominence once more. Ramses was imbued with a sense of divine destiny, charged by the gods themselves to reclaim Kadesh. In the temples guarded by statues of Horus and Anubis, Ramses sought guidance and blessings, vowing to reclaim Kadesh. This wasn't mere political theatre. It was a soul-deep oath to his people, ancestors, and gods. Standing as Amun's chosen, Ramses felt burdened with realigning Ma'at, the universal balance. Yet beneath his divine assurance was a young ruler wrestling with human frailties, ambition, fear, and doubt. Ramses' call to arms echoed across Egypt, summoning warriors to gather in Thebes. Beneath obelisks and monuments, the land came alive with preparation. Soldiers laid down their tools for weapons, and the Nile became a passage for boats filled with soldiers and supplies. The mobilization wasn't merely a movement of men, but a unifying force of resolve. Veterans with battle scars stood beside eager recruits, inspired by tales of glory. At their helm, Ramses was the embodiment of unity, transforming ordinary men into bearers of his divine mandate. Despite Ramses' divine right to rule, internal politics and ambitions simmered beneath the surface. Egypt was a complex pyramid of social and political structures. Nobles and priests navigated their own ambitions amidst Ramses' grand vision. Egyptian society was at a crossroads, where the grandeur of conquest was tempered by political realities. Kadesh was key to dominating the trade networks of the ancient Near East. For Egypt, controlling Kadesh meant tapping into the commercial veins of the ancient world. Ramses understood that securing Kadesh promised untold wealth and influence, a tool against Hittite encroachment. The campaign preparations were vast, involving meticulous logistical planning, Egyptian scribes and commanders outlined routes, calculated provisions and crafted strategies. Temples and workshops were buzzing with the prayerful hopes and preparation for the arduous campaign ahead. In speeches, Ramses evoked memories of Egypt's past splendour, urging his people to reclaim lost glory. His rallying cries reached deep into the collective soul, invoking illustrious ancestors to inspire a return to greatness. With the past as their torch, they prepared to face the dust and din of Kadesh, with hearts of lions and arms of warriors. The journey to Syria under Ramses II was more than just a military campaign. It was a sacred mission infused with the promise of divine favour and everlasting glory. Young yet battle-ready, Ramses stood not only as a leader, but as an embodiment of divine strength, a god among men. His commanding presence stirred the hearts of thousands from all corners of Egypt, transforming the march into a solemn procession of purpose. This was not mere conquest, it was a spiritual pilgrimage to reclaim Kadesh as holy ground, a centerpiece in the eternal theatre of divine will. As the first light bathed the Egyptian horizon, Ramses' 4 divisions, Amun, Ra, Ptah, and Set, rallied with an unwavering military precision. Each division bore not only the name of a powerful deity, but also carried their divine mandates. Under these banners, soldiers moved forward, each step a sacred incantation steeped in resolve, and interwoven with auspicious omens. Marching north became a living tapestry, history as yet uncharted, poised to be woven into Egypt's legendary annals through triumph. Against the searing sun and with a deepening sense of purpose, Ramses' call reverberated as a clarion for Egyptian might, resonating with Egypt's very essence. The assembly of Ramses' army is a masterpiece of both artistry and ambition. Divided into 4 distinct units, each division was a reflection of the cosmic order. The Amun division, named for the king of gods, led this divine charge as the avant-garde. For the soldiers within its ranks, being part of Amun was more than an honour. It was a sacred calling echoing the hidden god's unfathomable might. Priests and omens guided these men, whose courage and faith propelled them as the spearhead of Ramses thrust into Hittite territories. The Ra division followed, shining with the sun god's light, a disciplined force cutting through shadows of foreign lands. Ptah embodied the art of war, a reminder that battle was as much about creating as it was about destroying. Finally, Set, god of storms and chaos, symbolised the controlled disorder within the well-ordered ranks. Together, these divisions were more than troops. They were incarnations of celestial order made flesh, advancing under Ramses' ambitious vision. Crossing into Syria was both peril and necessity, painted on the stark canvas of a hostile landscape. Here was where Ramses would plant his legacy among the immortals. This ancient tract of land was fraught with danger and promise, where whispers of former pharaohs dissolved under the sun-baked winds. This crossing was more than symbolic. It was a transformation from mere contender to certain conqueror. The rugged terrain of Syria unfolded like an epic play, challenging Ramses' will and daring him to stake his claim. The soldiers' every step on unfamiliar trails synchronized with the rhythms of history, a departure from comfort and a plunge into the embrace of destiny. To Ramses, the foreign soil, though alien, was a grand vision awaiting its place in Egypt's monumental story. The journey northward was a battle not just of men but against nature itself. Egypt, with her predictable deserts and life-giving Nile, offered little preparation for Syria's unpredictable landscape. Here the terrain undulated treacherously, teeming with hidden threats. Marching was a lesson in endurance, a calculated gamble danced to ancient cadences. Sand shifted to rock, revealing a logistical nightmare. Dense woods and rushing waters pitted men against nature. Each struggle added to the tally of survival. The Hittites remained ghosts in the land's high corners, their familiarity with the landscape a formidable, unseen force. For Ramses, their presence symbolized a malevolent spectre lurking just beyond sight, adding anxiety to his forward thrust. Nature conspired in curious ways, masking Ramses' movements under ancient guile. As the troops advanced, the landscape cooperated, offering camouflage and melding soldiers into an unbroken waltz of strength and stealth. Ramses' march into Syria, draped in spiritual armour, was a carefully orchestrated symphony of faith and fervour. The soldiers transformed from mere mortals into agents of divine purpose, blending with sand and shadow as they navigated obstacles. The campaign's ebb and flow was a testament to their adaptability, rituals honed amid the sun's relentless fire. This dance of shadows and substance was mirrored by snow-capped peaks, watching silently over this grand Machiavellian game. Before them lay the Orontes River, a natural barrier that turned battlefield. Its calm waters belied the fury of planned conflict, a threshold between ambition and opposition. Crossing this river was less about physical passage and more a leap into a mythic stage, binding history and destiny. Egyptians stood on its banks, banners flying like living prayers, men tested by the elements. Here in the crucible of water's edge, soldiers bound by duty beyond mortal dreams found their resolve. It was here Ramses would echo divine conquest, thrusting forward with a relentless determination to weave his narrative into the immortal tapestry. In the vast expanse of desert and foreign lands where vigilance was a necessity, Ramses and his divisions marched confidently northward, unaware that they were stepping into a web of deception. The Hittite king, Muwatalli II, had crafted a masterstroke of subterfuge, dispatching spies posing as deserters. These men were captured by Ramses' scouts, spinning a convincing tale of a Hittite retreat to the north, a fable woven to lull the Egyptians into a false sense of security. Trusting this information, Ramses was led into a dark dance between fear and falsehood, where his ambition and confidence acted as blindfolds, permitting the unfolding of chaos. This strategy, a testament to the power of psychological warfare, manipulated human belief. Ramses saw the path to Kadesh as clear and unchallenged, as a man raised amidst omens and prophecies, where divine favour was sought for every action. His failure to discern truth from deception became a fatal flaw. He pressed the Ammon division forward, dreams of victory painting his horizon, unaware of the ambush awaiting him. To Ramses, Kadesh was more than a city. It was a symbol of his divine right and the jewel upon Egypt's crown. His trust clouded judgment, showcasing the perpetual tension between power and hubris. A leader blinded by ambition, yet enslaved by naive faith in flawed intelligence. The deceptive tranquility his scouts reported painted an illusion of victory. While the Egyptian army saw no sign of the Hittites and assumed a narrative of victory, a vast Hittite force lay hidden among hills and shaded groves, a tactical absence waiting to spring a deadly surprise. Ramses' men, buoyed by confidence and Ramses' undeniable aura, were oblivious to the creeping shadows ready to engulf them. The emperor's charisma drowned any latent fears, as admitting doubt was tantamount to inviting divine wrath. This absence was a masterstroke of Hittite cunning, an intricate dance of invisibility and deception. The Amun division, an emblem of divine vigour, surged ahead, fueled by Ramses' belief in a swift victory against a supposedly weakened foe. Isolation marked the Amun division as vulnerable, embodying the peril of speed over strategy. A maelstrom triggered by the disparity between zeal and proper counsel forged a path that veered perilously close to disaster. The irony of divine protection unheeded in favour of flawed human conviction. The silent forest awaited like a predator, harbouring the Hittite forces poised for ambush. The expectation of an easy siege evaporated among the unsettling whispers of the woods, where Hittite chariots crouched in lethal anticipation. The Egyptians moved forward, unaware that they were stepping into a trap, a tactical play as ancient as war itself. The Hittites, masters of concealment, wielded their environment as an ally, converting silence into a deadly cloak. When the Hittite chariots emerged from their cover, it was akin to a storm. These chariots were not mere vehicles, but sophisticated machines of war, drawing power from speed and precision. As they descended, the very fabric of the battlefield changed. What began as an expected triumph for the Egyptians transformed into a theatre of chaos and terror, with Ramses suddenly finding his anticipated conquest morphing into a desperate fight for survival. The legendary craft of Hittite warfare burst forth, reverberating with discord and tumult, an exhibition of finely tuned military artistry. In the heart of this storm, Ramses experienced a profound epiphany, a piercing clarity amid chaos. The proud Pharaoh, once steadfast in the belief of imminent victory, now faced his vulnerability. The sudden realization of deception struck him deeply, transforming his understanding of the battlefield and elevating his determination. Confronted by his mortality, Ramses tapped into an inner strength, rising beyond temporal fate and accepting the harsh wisdom gleaned from this desperate stage. Ramses, his voice a beacon in the frenzy, rallied his scattered forces with a desperate and defiant cry. What had been a disparate assembly of soldiers responded to the Pharaoh, no longer just a distant ruler but a comrade in arms. His words, fueled by prophecy and urgency, reawakened dormant instincts and turned the chaos of battle into something formidable. Ramses, mired in dust and painted with blood, became an embodiment of mythic defiance, an inspiration to his men who clung to survival's glowing ember amidst certain defeat. In a newfound balance, the Egyptians stood firm against their foes. Ramses' commands cut through the uncertain turmoil, creating a defensive tapestry of endurance and determination. Each soldier, driven by camaraderie and survival, formed a resilient barrier against the Hittite onslaught. They stood united, a line of defence against seemingly inevitable defeat. A glimpse of hope amidst the darkness of war. The frenetic combat saw an unexpected lull as tensions relaxed briefly. The Hittite surprise stuttered under Ramses' indomitable spirit, granting him a precious moment of clarity. The battle's tumult stilled enough to uncover human grit where fate had seemed blind. On the horizon, unseen by enemy scouts, the Petard division approached from the south, a glimmer of salvation. This momentary calm, a strange respite within the heart of turmoil, foreshadowed the unravelling of destiny and the unrelenting allure of fate's mystery. The early morning haze hovered like a spectral veil over the Orontes River, casting the world in soft, undefined hues. Ramses rose before dawn, his mind swirling with dreams of swift victory. After days of grueling march, his Amun division was weary. their anticipation for battle dulled by exhaustion. Yet within the camp, a palpable energy coursed as officers barked orders, weapons were sharpened, and prayers to the gods whispered fervently. In this quiet lull before the storm, even the clinking armour seemed muted, the soldiers' usual boisterous confidence replaced by grim determination. Ramses sensed a momentary bond with his warriors, each one part of Egypt's grand lineage. The sun began its climb, illuminating the battlefield, bestowing its fleeting blessings before the impending chaos. Amidst the fluttering banners, the Amun division found solace in routines. Priests wandered through the ranks, invoking Amun-Ra's favour, their chants weaving a protective tapestry. Ramses, resplendent in gold and steel, offered his own prayer, channeling the courage required to lead through the unknown dangers lying beyond. To his men he appeared every bit the embodiment of Horus, ready to strike with godly might. The air carried a charge of anxious anticipation mixed with campfire smoke. Ramses knew the strategic importance of the day. Beyond the horizon lay Kadesh, ripe for conquest. One decisive strike could secure eternal glory. Unbeknownst to them, destiny awaited, cloaked by the Hittites' orchestrated deception, ready to shatter the calm with devastating force. The morning's peace suddenly fractured as the ground beneath the Amun division vibrated, growing into a thunderous roar. Ramses and his men were caught off guard as the sound of 3,000 Hittite chariots erupted from the earth, cascading over the plains. The Hittites, masters of deception, had crafted a perfect ambush. Waves of dust heralded their rapid advance, a tempest bearing lethal intent. Chariots carved through the camp with precision, throwing the Egyptians into panic, their focus taken from ordered preparation to primal survival. From his command post, Ramses watched the chaos unfold. Charioteers struck with fierce precision, the clash of metal and cries of men creating a harrowing symphony. The Amun division was surrounded, teetering on the brink of obliteration. Orders flew from Ramses' lips, but command shattered amidst the chaos. Here, under the brightening sky, the test of his resolve began. Atop his chariot, leader and warrior, Ramses realized the day might immortalize his name under unforeseen circumstances. Hesitation was not a choice. The line between glory and downfall lay at his sword's edge. In the swirling dust, Ramses experienced a profound solitude, a singular moment amid the throng. Bereft of reassuring banners, he stood alone with the weight of his choices and their legacies. Reflecting on the mantle of Pharaoh, divine expectations mingled with human fears. He remembered past victories but faced disheartening odds. Yet beneath his apprehension lay a resolve forged in divine mandate and personal valour. In this moment, Ramses questioned whether history would mark him defeated by cunning or revitalised by courage. His was the crucible where leadership faced ultimate trial. Surveying the battlefield, Egyptian shield-bearers mirrored his reality. The ongoing clash transcended wood and metal into an existential struggle. Ramses faced his kingly burdens, embracing eternal command demands. For a split instant, he stood apart from his men and himself, an emperor stripped of pretense, confronting mortality. At the heart of overwhelming odds, Ramses' resolve hardened. The battle teetered on annihilation's brink. Chariots threatened to consume what remained of Egyptian formation. But in his heart, audacity ignited. A flicker turned flame. Ramses rallied his troops with a cry, standing resolute atop his chariot, launching into a defiant charge. His courage dispelled fear among his men, offering resilience amid the terror. Ramses became the focal point, transforming disorder into resistance. His chariot raced through melee, sparking tenacity, igniting hope. Abandon fear, shackles, find strength in unity. His unspoken command reignited Egyptian resolve. They formed a living barrier against chariots, Ramses embodying martial valor. Leading the charge, he drew a line against annihilation. He was king and soldier, allied for survival, fighting to rewrite history's grim possibility. Despite Ramses' efforts, disaster loomed. The Hittites' relentless ferocity pressed Egyptian lines, threatening collapse. The Orontes bore witness to fate's tipping point amid carnage and frantic defense. Dust filled the air with iron's scent, marking strategic formation remnants. Ramses, oscillating between combat and command, fought against defeat's pull. Every moment teetered on a razor's edge, defeat haunting every vision of triumph. Ramses' unyielding hope persisted even amid adversity. Retreat shadowed every triumph, but Ramses harboured hope within chaos. This refusal to yield, emblematic of personal evolution and military art, ensured defeat's hard-earned contest. A temporary frenzy lull ensued. Wounded soldiers paused amid carnage. Ramses recalibrated his directive, fortifying defences. Despite the chaos, unity prevailed. Ramses used the respite, dispatching scouts, renewing resolve. Each particle whispered hope, trusting in bonds tested and forged during adversity. The lull ended as the Hittites resumed their onslaught. Ramses guided his forces with insight, using terrain advantage and unforeseen alignments to shift defence forward. This battle demanded every ounce of determination, a dance between power and desperation. Facing his greatest test, Ramses rotated into vantage, his resolve embodying courage. He knew triumph surpassed mere tactics. It relied on valour and the transformative crucible. Each Egyptian wedge faced inevitability with strategic resolve. Ramses led coordinated manoeuvres, determinedly turning defence into offensive retaliation. As battle zenith neared, divine intervention blended with human resolve. Egyptian determination challenged Hittite leadership, sparking Ramses' fierce commitment. In this enigma of battle, Ramses intuited triumph as unity emerged against despair. As sun dipped low, conflict ebbed. Exhaustion wore heavily on forces. Ramses orchestrated a tactical retreat, preserving his men amid entropy. Under a star-filled sky, soldiers disentangled from near defeat, unbowed survivors of destiny's forge. They emerged as a radiant testament to shared resilience and courage. As the sun cast long shadows over the blood-soaked plains of Kadesh, Ramses II stood on the brink of catastrophe. The Amun division, blindsided and beleaguered, faced imminent collapse under the relentless Hittite assault. Ramses, a figure now stripped of immortal veneer, navigated his chariot through chaos and carnage, clinging to his resolve with the tenacity born from divine ancestry. Yet even the soul woven from gods feels the wear of relentless struggle, and Ramses sensed his endurance waning. Amidst the smoke and despair lingered a glimmer of hope, a whisper of salvation approaching, obscured but steadfast. Beyond the horizon, the warriors of the Ptah division advanced. Their march was fueled by urgency, each step a beat in the drumroll of impending conflict. Stories of Kadesh's ferocity reached them, and the anticipation was palpable. These soldiers, forged under the unforgiving Egyptian sun and tempered by the stern guidance of battle-hardened generals, were ready. Their blades gleamed in the unforgiving light, and their chariots were poised for the pivotal moment. As they neared the battlefield, the din of war became unmistakable. the clash of arms merging with the cries of those locked in a mortal struggle. The sound of approaching chariots grew louder, heralding the Petard division's arrival. Dust churned beneath their onslaught, a tumultuous backdrop to their surge into the heat of battle. For the beleaguered Amun division, these were not merely reinforcements, they were lifelines restoring hope. For Ramses, they were the promise of deliverance made manifest. The battlefield, once echoing only chaos, now pulsed with the rhythm